Alright guys, I'm back again with another video. And this is the Q&A Sunday where, um, as you guys should know, I made a video about 4 days ago, roughly, asking you guys to post your questions in the comments section. And I would go through and try to answer all of them, or at least most of them, and give you my personal opinion. Now, um, I'm not going to list the names per question because some of the stuff kind of overlaps, and so I don't want to get too convoluted by oh, okay, well this person said this, and then it's like whatever. Most of your questions centered around some of the similar stuff, but there was some stuff that was different. So I'm just gonna go through and answer the questions without mentioning you. I'm pretty sure you'll know who you are, and if you got a question about what question it is, you pretty much go back to the comment section of that video and see who wrote what. It was only like 6 or 7 of you guys, and one of you already did the question before I made a whole video topic about. So with that out of the way, let's get started. And I have everything written on this little note card here. So the first question is, do you believe Zoe's career will be better than Melo's? Uh, that's an interesting question. It's very hard to predict that because there's so many ways to look at that. I think Melo's stats will probably be better than Zoe's, but I could see a situation where Zoe ends up a champion more often than not, or on a championship team more often than not than Melo. And depending on how we're rating or grading their careers, could differ vastly. Like, I don't see Melo ever being up for Defensive Player of the Year, Depoy Award, or first to second team all defense in his career. I just don't see that. But that's something Zoe could get realistically. So, it's kind of like, I don't know. I would like to say Zoe is going to have the more solid career, but Melo might have the more Hall of Fame career. Like I could see them potentially both being in the Hall of Fame, but I could see Lonzo being like further back, like somewhere in the top 45 to 100 players, and Melo could be top 25 all time, like that. So, I mean, that's really hard to project because, you know, I'll touch into why that's hard to project because there's another question on the list that's kind of similar to it and it touches on that. But anywho, let me get to the next one. Do I think the Ball brothers are going to play on the same team someday? Or what are the chances? Look, the Ball brothers can all play on the same team, but they have to want it. And it's not going to be immediate. Um, it depends on what they want, right? So obviously Jello's not in the league. That's the toughest part is getting him actually in the league for that to even happen. So that's the first hurdle. Um, Assuming that can happen, the next part is when do Lonzo and Melo's contracts uh, expire near around or somewhere around the same time so that they can agree to be on one team or a certain team together, you know, and the franchise has to be okay with wanting them. It's so much that goes into this. I could also see them like in their late parts of their lives playing on the same team, but it's really hard to say for sure if they will. Um, Truth be told, I kind of only want to see Melo and Zoe play. Not necessarily all three. I'm not sure about Jello. He actually he would have to play a couple years somewhere else and develop because he really hasn't played real basketball in a while. Um, I could see it, but I'd say it's more likely than not that won't happen. Again, they have to be both comfortable where they're going in their careers, and the coach has to be agree with. It's so much other stuff: front office, coach, culture. Getting Jello in, which is probably the biggest hurdle of them all, and then contract situations, yada yada yada. Um, with Zoe trying to get paid, and Melo eventually trying to get paid, do you want both ball boys on a team together? And if it doesn't work, you got to try to trade one of them. Like, that's a monster thing to kind of deal with. Um, I'm not sure on that one. That's a tough one, and it's very hard to predict that right now, given that Zoe's about is on his contract year. Melo just got in the league, so to answer that question, I'm not sure, but I would lean 85% no. I don't see it happening. Um, but yeah, let's see. Do I see Lonzo having a long career? Yeah, I see Lonzo having a long career for the simple fact that, first of all, you got to look at the position, right? The position is going to trend toward taller point guards. They're going to phase out smaller point guards like Trey Young. Like, they're going to, there'll always be a couple in the league because they're just good. They have something unique that they do very, very well at a high level. But the league is going to start trending to Luka, Melo, Lonzo, Ben Simmons, Tyrese Halliburton, these kind of guys who are 6'5" or bigger who can play multiple positions and do multiple things on the court. Even just thinking of the guys I listed, they all have like two or three things they do at a high level. Whether it be defense, passing, rebounding, scoring, something, shooting. There's something that they all can do at a very high clip. So I see Lonzo having a career just off that alone. Again, I tend to think that Lonzo is the glue guy. He was the Draymond Green for a team. And it's opposite of how the Warriors setup is. The Warriors have Draymond for two guards. I think you have two forwards for Zoe, which is funny because they have him like that in New Orleans, but they got other issues between their two forwards that I'm not going to discuss in this video. But I see him having a long career. At worst, he'd be a journeyman. And journeyman point guards, they can do a little bit of everything and shoot. And you're oversized, you're for the position. I mean, he's gonna have a long career just off of that alone. That's too much in one body to like. That's too much value. And that's what it's all about in the league: getting the most value out of the players that you have. Let's see. At what age Lonzo will have his best year stats, and what will they look like? Again, this is hard because you don't know what team he's going to be on. You don't know how they're going to play. It's so much that goes into it. There's no way to accurately predict this. But to answer the question, I think Lonzo probably around age 26, somewhere between 26 and 28 will be the best years of his career or the best year of his career. I'm talking, first team all defense, DPOY, uh, possible championship. Um, you know, his stats are gonna look something. I think on his best year, Lonzo would probably be like 21 or 22 points, uh, 9 assists, and like 7 rebounds, and then he'd probably be defensive player of the year. He would be an all-star. He'd be really good. He'd be really valued, really valuable to a team. I think he would have the consistency on his stroke. No pun intended. I think he will have figured out picking his spots on the court, and I think he will better understand the game and be a much more mature player, along with all the other stuff that I've mentioned before about his physical measurements and stuff like that. I think Pete Zoe is going to be in the running for that is around what I expect. And even when you look at guys like Magic Johnson, Jason Kidd, they had 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 years or so, where they really averaged like mid-20s, and most of the time they're around that 18, 19 range or 16, 17 range. So I don't expect him to have too many long years where he's getting like in the 20s. That's just not the kind of player he's molded as. Plus, he's not a first or secondary option on 90% of teams, so I don't see him ever getting the amount of shot reps he would need to uh, get a higher scoring amount. Let's see. Uh, what lineups with Zion would I like to see? Oh, okay, I remember this question. So this question is asking, given the lineups that they have with Zion on the Pelicans, what would I like to see from, as far as a lineup in the middle of the game? Because this is about the bench unit, and I've mentioned this in a video too before. Um, but to answer this question, if I wanted to see a lineup in the middle of the game with Zion, uh, I would prefer to see Zoe Zion. I gotta have both of them. Um, mm, this is kind of hard because honestly, their bench unit is so garbage. I don't really want them playing with too many of the guys, so I would probably pick Lonzo, Josh Hart, um, Zion. I'm assuming I can't pick Steven Adams, so I'm gonna go with Hernan Gomez. Uh, and then, uh, fuck, man, I think I'm gonna have to put Nikhil Alexander Walker in and just slide Josh to the three. I don't like it, but I mean that's like the only you need as much defense around Zion as possible so that his weaknesses don't you know get over exacerbated. And the problem is because I'm thinking about having Lonzo in the lineup because he could cover defensively for most of them. And with Josh Hart, there's some synergy there. But the problem is on the offensive end, you'll space the floor clearly because you got Nikhil and Josh Hart there and everything. But the problem is, I think Nikhil is more rah rah, and I feel like he would take the ball away from where it needs to be. And again, like I've always said, I want three ball handlers, so I got that with Walker and Lonzo, and then I guess you could add, Zion there ish. But that bench is so garbage. Like honestly, and I'm surprised we haven't seen much of this guy. I would probably put Wenyen Gabriel in the game. Wenyen Gabriel is somebody I've been wanting to see all year. We have not really seen him. From what I looked at him, he could actually kind of shoot halfway good. He plays solid defense. He's got a pretty good motor. I would like to see him getting some run, and I'm surprised Stan has not went to him for whatever reason. Um, that the bench unit is just too garbage, man. That would have to be the lineup I'd have to go to because that's the one I'm most familiar with. I don't want to throw Winyon in, and yeah, it's Zoe, Nikhil, Hart, Zion, uh, Willie Hernan Gomez or Billy Goat because he wants to be called Billy. So, but yeah, that's um, that's my answer to that question. That's a hard one though, because when you start looking at lineups and stuff, bench units, like they were saying, like Derrick Rose since he's been on the Knicks, they've outscored their opponents' benches by 76 points. It's like, damn, if we could get 76 points off the goddamn bench, for 2 games, which is what 38 points a game, we'd be really fucking good. It takes away some of that stress on the starters, and they can sit a little bit longer and come back in and be ready to go. But it is what it is. And the last question is, what does Peak Zoe look like? Stats Teams Award. See, I kind of answered that on the other question. Um, Here's the thing. Peak Zoe to me is not a Zoe who is going to have 20 points a game. Peak Zoe to me is 18, 10, 7, and 8, or 7 or 8, I should say, in the rebounds department. Look, I don't think he'll ever average a triple double. I don't think he'll ever get a season where he's like averaging a double double in rebounds, basically like points and rebounds. I just don't see it. Um, the team like this stuff is hard to predict because money, cap space, team needs. Like everybody has a point guard ish and stuff, so it's kind of like where does Zoe fit in on most teams? Like, you know, even like okay, even with the Chicago thing, they have Kobe White, and you kind of he can score and stuff. It's like you got somebody there that could do something. There's some teams where he could play. He could play shooting guard, or he could play off ball or whatever and stuff too. But he's doing that on the Pelicans now. Um, I don't know what the team will look like to be honest. More than likely, it's gonna be one of the teams we probably already been hearing trade rumors about. Um, let's see. Let me make sure I gave you stats, the team, the awards. Depoy, I could see him being a third team All NBA at some point, like on his peak year. Um, he'll get a couple All Star nods, I think, especially as the other guys retire. Um, I could even see him being six man of the year, like late in his career, depending on how long he decides to play. Um, Even though that's not necessarily peak Zoe, but look, Lonzo, Lonzo, like I said, he's a toolbox. Toolboxes don't get they don't get glory, so to speak. It's like I don't want to use this guy. No, bad guy. Like Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was a toolbox. He had like a unique skill set of stuff that he did really well at a high level, and he was valuable to a team. He played for the Spurs. He played for Chicago. He played for Detroit. You know, he just did so many things. And usually on most good legendary teams, you got guys that do kind of stuff like that. Like Derek Fisher, um, on the Lakers did a whole lot for you. I'm talking about the 2000s Lakers. Well, I guess also to a lesser extent the Paul Gasol Kobe Lakers too. Um, Manu Ginobili, you know, the, those are the guys. They don't necessarily get the glory, but they're like necessary for a team. So Pete Zoe is gonna be like in a situation kind of like with Giannis and Drew and Chris Middleton. He'll either be that Chris Middleton player or that Drew Holiday player on a team. You know, I think ultimately that's where his value will be. But as you saw, or as you know, Drew Holiday made an All Star team or two uh, in the league before. He's second, first team, all defense, yada yada yada. That's kind of more in line where I think his career is going to be. But I could see him getting a couple of All Star nods or something like that. Maybe even Andre Iguodala ish. How Andre would come off the bench late in his career and he would give you a little bit of everything, or he would start in their death lineup and he just did a little bit of everything. And it's funny because they got that story out now where Bogut was talking about how, and I shared it on my Twitter, where Bogut was like he would go and demand that the GMs get rid of dumb, low IQ players and be like, they can't play with us. They're too stupid. And I was like, and I quoted that on Twitter, and I was like, the Pels need that. That's why Iggy's my guy. Iguodala's my guy. Get these bums out of here. They don't know how to play the game of basketball. But to the question, I hope I answered it. Um, and going back, I guess to do I think Zoe's career would be better than Melo? Look, ultimately, it just all depends. At the end of the day, we can't predict, injuries. For instance, we can't predict. For all we know, we hope this don't happen. But Melo could get a catastrophic injury, and then all of a sudden he projects lower than what he is. You know, Zoe had a series of injuries, and I think that hurt him because he lost valuable training time in the long run. So, it just kind of depends. But anyway, that was all the questions I had. Like I said, the other question I already did the video on, so I don't have to reiterate or answer that one. But yeah, man, I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope I answered your questions. If not, let me know and I can address them in the comment section. But again, it's your boy. Y'all have a good one. Peace.